Hi, it's Quilting Nerd again. Welcome to my channel. And today we are working on the fifth installment in texture study. And today I want to focus on more standalone elements and motifs and what we can do to make them really pop out. And for that, feather is definitely a well-established star in the quilting patterns. So let us try to use a feather and what we can do to make it really shine, even if it's quilted on a fabric with blending thread, so there is no extra help with color outlining the shape. So let us start with a spine. I am just quilting a nice wavy line. Curling slightly in at the end. And I'm traveling back. You can always break your thread. I've seen some quilters that do exactly that, but I simply like the enhanced thickness of the stem. And I will quilt here bounced back feather, but you know, usually I'm trying to get out to the edges of my block, but this time I will keep it a little bit smaller so I have space for the background filler. So let's start. I have some other videos about quilting feathers and how to practice them. It's one of the more challenging patterns because of this element of turning into the stem here. So we have to have always a sharp point. What I can actually do is I could quilt it on both sides simultaneously, but I prefer to focus on one side at a time. Feathers give this great texture because we have these well-defined shapes of where the fabric can simply pop out. These are our plums. And so everything what we have to do now is to add some elements to suppress the fabric here around, and then we will be having just will draw attention to our feather. And I like bounce back feather because it always looks very nice and it has a really nice rhythm to it. It's like dancing a waltz. It's one going outside, turning it, two it's traveling, and three is coming back. And then we can start from the beginning. I would have no problem with filling the whole space available, and then I would make this feather to merge, create very uniform texture, but in this case I really want it to be kind of like almost three-dimensional effect, to have this three-dimensional effect. So let me see how I can achieve that. Here I am done, so I can now travel back, create very well-defined stem because of the accumulating of the thread, and I can start on the back side, on the other side. Took me some time to learn how to quilt feathers. I actually quilted a whole quilt just with different feather motifs, different styles, and that was a great experience, and the quilt also looks very good. So here I'm paying attention, but here I'm not touching any other feathers from the other side, so I can just go in. And now my feather is done. Actually, now I will stop the thread. So now we have this very nice shape, but here we have the volume sticking out very nicely, but also here we have lots of volume which we have to suppress in order to make this feather pop up. And there are different ways how to do that. We can just add some very dense pattern, so we can use swirls. That's one of the possibilities. The other one is to add dense echo lines around. You can, it's one of the possibilities, and probably I should also try that one. The other one, you can simply add very dense matchstick quilting in the background. And actually I like this one the most, this idea, because very simple reason. Adding just very dense echo lines will kinda take away a little bit from the shape because of this dense repetition, but maybe I will repeat that on the in the other place. Now let us start with dense matchstick quilting. For that, we can use the fact that it's we are quilting on a domestic machine, and that means we can rotate the quilt any way we want, especially on such a small one. If I would have a big quilt, I would not rotate it. Also, probably I would not quilt that way on a very large quilt, so because that would make the quilt much stiffer. But here we are aiming for lots of wow effects because it's going to be a wall hanging. So we are quilting our lines, back and forth lines, and we are trying to see the lines within our foot. And we are just trying to touch the feather, and you can immediately see how we are suppressing the volume here. And everything what will be popping out, which will have higher, greater high values, will be our feather. And I use this technique on my Dream Big panel. You know, this wonderful flower that so many quilters tried their skills, quilting skills on with great effect. And this is really attracting attention. Those feathers look really great. So this matchstick quilting takes some time. We want to have the nice small intervals and do not change it too much. So take it slow. The stitches can be a little bit smaller here, that's fine. It will add to the dense texture. Additional factor that enhances the texture is the direction, because my feather goes on the long axis of my element and the lines, the background lines, go on the short axis, so they are perpendicular. And in this way, this is really the maximum effect that you may have like that, because we have difference in size, we have difference in direction, and we have the difference in the density. So it's like 3 multiplying factors here. Because it takes such a long time, I will show you just the one side how I quilted it. The other one I will quilt outside of the camera and just show you the final effect. But sometimes you have to now pay attention how you feel it, because right now here we have some irregular shape. So that's why it's important to take your time, so we are not crossing the lines. And we are filling the space nicely. For example, here, I have to finish this part here. And then I'm using the feather shape to travel. And now I will go to the spine and find my way out, taking it nice and easy. And I could always stop and go, so break my thread, but in this case then I would have to do that several times. So choose your way, what is easier for you and what is more comfortable for you. There is no one right way. It all depends on your skill, on your confidence, on what your preferences are. We are aiming for the final effect, not the path. Same was here. You see here, I can simply go all the way down, and first I will fill the long side here, and after that I can come back on the other side. And then when I am done, because that was the only tricky part that was there on the other side, and now I am just repeating this. Using this background, this matchstick lines, you can do amazing things. It is a little bit, maybe right now it is a bit more boring part of the quilting, but still it's great exercise because you practice your patience and you practice your precision. So from time to time it is good to go over your portfolio of your patterns and just practice them, and do not say, okay, this is too easy, that are just lines. You cannot create anything fancy or great with such simple shapes. That's not true. Everything depends on this, what you're doing with it. So let me finish it and show you how the full texture looks like. So here is the finished element, and you can see the difference to the previous state where we didn't fill these areas with the dense quilting. You can physically feel how this feather is just visible. You simply want to touch it, and all because of this huge difference in the height between the less densely quilted plums, the large areas that are nicely in the height popping out, and this suppressed volume in the background, and it looks like a little bit like a sculpture. And this is something what will definitely attract your attention, and you can do that with any shape you want, just keeping in mind this principle of creating texture in quilting. If you have a nice fluffy batting, it's very easy to create that by modifying the regions of less dense and more dense quilting pattern. So again, I will make a nice photo. I will place it on top of this video, and then we can move on to the next standalone motif. The next element I'm working on, it's also elongated one. It's will be quilted within 2 squares, and I used chalk marking, and I marked me a spindle shape, or like a pointy oval, and I will quilt now directly on the line to create my visual central element. Always the starting and stopping points can be a little bit tricky. If I move my fabric too fast or shifted it while stretching and repositioning my hands, then I can have a little bit of a wobbly point, like I had it here in this space, but I will be not picking it out. So now I have to kind of look ahead and extrapolate where I should be going. That's always a little bit tricky with the while quilting on the markings. And what we will do now is I will fill here in the middle with ribbon candy, adjusting the size. I like ribbon candy because it's the same like with feathers. All those loops mark my regions of less density, and they will be popping out very nice. I'm always thinking about quilting droplets when I'm quilting ribbon candy. Not as curved, somehow it is easier for me that way. It's like going slalom. And now we are at our point. What I could do right now is to stop my thread and in order to add a thin echo line, but I can also go from point to point and make the points touching. I will just turn it around so I can see better. And I will just add one skinny echo line to separate it a little bit better from the background, because again what we have here is an area that has very large elements and we want them to pop out, so we have to suppress the area around. We could use the lines again, and if you want to have a uniform look on your project, that's probably what we should do, but I am doing this project more for educational reasons, so I have to add some variety otherwise. We could learn so many things, so in this case I will simply add relatively dense swirls. They don't have to be small, but they have to be dense, because everything what we want to achieve is suppressing the volume here. So we have to have higher density of our quilting lines and as good coverage as possible. We could have also added more echo lines of the same shape. That would have also worked, because these are lines and they are going in different direction than our ribbon candy elements. And probably I would have done that if I would have my spindle form extending from one edge of the block to the next. In this case we want to have only dense feeling, so we can also use echo lines. And we want to fill this space as dense as possible. In this case we will have higher visual impact of our background because of the high contrast thread. But if you will use black thread or dark gray thread, this effect will be minimal. Understanding the effects of texture helps you to select also the patterns you want to use for quilting your block, because in this way you can decide which part of the block you want to expose or put a highlight on with less quilting, so it has more of this volume and height. so now I have to pay attention that I'm not slipping into my old mode of standard mode of operation, which is a little bit more relaxed and not as dense. So that's also another positive of this exercise for me. The other option for a dense filler would be using very dense stipples, so stippling those wriggly lines, but they are very, very effective that way. And despite the fact that they are recommended for beginners, I do not think that they are all that easy to quilt in a regular way. So actually I think stipples should be more for advanced quilters, to keep them, because you have to be very good already with your control and understanding how to move across the sandwich to make good stippling. But it's also an option, definitely. I can recommend for you to try these ideas with more blending thread, just to enhance the texture and focus on the texture, because right now here we have a mixture of the texture and the thread to a different degree. That's additional advantage of using 3 different colors in my projects, because of the difference in the contrast that I have between the thread and the fabric. So the bottom line here is, the bottom area is almost quilted, and I will go on because it's just, I'm repeating the swirls here, and I will fill the upper part the same way like the lower. And I will show you how the element looks like when completed in a moment. I finished filling the background, and the look is very striking. First, we have 2 types of contrast. We have the contrast in the density. We have also the contrast in color, because the gray changed completely the character of our black fabric. But still, if we just look at the texture, we see it's amazing. What I am actually tempted to do is to go and fill those little corners between my ribbon candies, just to enhance this shape we have in the middle. And actually I think I'm going for it. So what I can do here is I can just use the arches. The other option would be simply not to quilt the spindle shape, just use the marking and then fill everything with the swirls, and that's what I would probably do next time if I would use such element. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing such projects. Simply, I'm learning from every single one of them what I can do different or better next time. Nothing is filed as mistake, and it's actually extremely rare that I am ripping my stitches off. It happens, because it does happen, but mostly because I was dreaming while quilting and I went like completely wrong. And yeah, this happens too. probably comes with the fact that, you know, when you're a mom and a working person, there are some problems and challenges of everyday life. Sometimes you cannot let go and you start thinking about how to solve certain issues, and then you don't pay attention where you are going. But yeah, that happens. So now this ribbon candy will pop out even stronger. And because I keep these small echo lines with similar spacing like my swirls, actually they are merging this whole region. Everything what we will see is the ribbon candy surrounded by this black-gray background. So now I'm done, and I think this time I'm really done. And that's how it looks like. And it's yummy. I really like it. It's very squishy here, and here it is very nice and has this very solid, much stiffer background frame for our element. So again, I will take a photo and you will see the effect in a moment.